The 1975 movie A Boy and His Dog follows an alternate timeline, where John F. Kennedy was never assassinated. And instead of the space race, technology skewed more towards animal testing and the development of androids and robotics, causing a much warmer Cold War, which in turn led to a Third World War that lasted 20 years.
War is hell.
Then, after it settled, a few years after that, in 2007, a Fourth World War begins, lasting only 5 days.
World War IV lasted 5 days.
Leaving only a barren nuclear wasteland as its only true survivor. And among all of that, there is a boy and his talking dog companion, who he refers to one time as dog meat.
Fine, dog meat.
Hey, wait a minute. But point being, this movie and its book in which the film was adapted from would become one of the main influences for the Fallout series, which adopted many of its wacky sci-fi elements, like its alternate history timeline, but also its horrific setting hidden behind its light-hearted tone. And I gotta admit, I love Fallout. Ever since I was a dumb little 11-year-old kid booting up Fallout 4 for the first time, I've loved Fallout. I played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 76, which I refunded 2 hours later, and Fallouts 1 and 2. And I've even played Fallout Shelter. Apparently the sole survivor from Fallout 4 is this guy in the Fallout 1 intro. He was just an accomplice to a war crime, live on air. What the hell? Fallout New Vegas is my most played game of all time. But there are so many memorable quests and intricately detailed maps, funny NPCs, dumb kids.
You're not gonna shoot me, are you?
This guy from New Vegas.
Yeah! Who won the lottery? I did!
The retro-futuristic depiction of 1950s American culture, communism, capitalism, all the isms, Liberty Prime, the cheesiness, the humor, and the storytelling that these games display at their best moments are the best of what the medium has to offer. Joshua Graham, Mr. House, Benny, Dog, the other dog, Yamahasha Maskaha.
Tell me a joke.
Kanye West, Frank Horrigan, Detective Valentine, Angry Enclave Soldier.
The President of the United States of America. Who do you think I was talking about? The fuck? Who is it? What? I should kick your fucking ass.
There are so many memorable and well-written characters. But when I found out that Amazon, a company that is ironically the real-life version of Vault-Tec, a company that exploits its workers like it's 1984, a company known for having like 2 good shows and that's it. When I heard that they were taking the reins over Fallout, I was convinced that it was going to be bad. But after watching all 8 episodes twice and reflecting on it a month after its release, I can confidently say that it just works.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not.
16 times the detail, runs perfectly, no crashes. It's a perfect show. Wow, they even got the power armor. Wow. But on a serious note, I actually did enjoy the show. I enjoyed it quite a lot actually. And then I put on my big boy boots and my thinking cap, and then I watched the show again, and a lot of its flaws became very apparent. It's like that one movie where the guy puts on glasses and he sees that the world is being run by aliens. That was like me watching the Fallout show for the second time. I pulled the wool out from under my eyes and took off my nostalgia glasses, and I realized that it isn't all that great in my opinion. My experience watching the Fallout show is kind of like how I play every Bethesda title. The first playthrough, it's a blast, but the second playthrough,
Vault.
as you notice that, at least from a main quest perspective, it's kind of shallow actually. Like really, Liam Neeson? Really? That's it? That's your reaction to finding out that your only child detonated a nuke in a town full of innocent people? Just mild disappointment?
I raised you to be better than that. We'll talk more about this later.
Oh wow, I'm really disappointed that you killed hundreds of people in a small town. We'll talk about this later. Anyway, here's a settlement that needs your help. However, what I like about the Fallout show is all the side stuff. So what I mean by that is, all the stuff which is not what makes a show truly memorable or great is the stuff I liked. Like, do you really watch Breaking Bad for the Walt Jr. Flynn subplot or Marie's shoplifting arc? No, you watch it for Walter.
Crawl out through the fallout, baby, when they drop that bomb.
Easily the best element of this show is how it looks. I mean visually, its settings, its little details, its environmental storytelling and world building. I think it honestly did too good a job that it distracted people from the inner flaws of the show's plot and writing. Every single frame and every single scene of this show has some type of Easter egg hidden in plain sight, or some reference to a moment that many would have experienced themselves while playing the games. Like in this scene where Maximus tries to barter some shop owner to fix his little power armor part, but he's only got 4 caps and he failed the charisma check because he has 0 riz.
These are called oysters? You want one? They make you feel so good. You wanna make my cock explode now?
But to those unfamiliar with the Fallout franchise, it really is just immersive world building at its finest. Sand-covered corpses, the remains of fallen innocent people who are left to rot after the nuclear apocalypse. It's plucked just right out of the games, exploring the ruins of Boston or the Mojave, piecing together what happened in a room full of bodies. Like A Boy and His Dog, it does have its lighthearted tone, but it's easy to forget that at its core, it is about a nuclear apocalypse, which is actually the absolute worst way to die. This movie confirms it. All the little items and bottles, the little stim packs and jet inhalers, the vaults themselves that actually look better than what they do in the games, the vault suits, the Nuka-Cola neon signs in the background, Mr. Gutsy. There's just so much here that visually looks great, like it's plucked straight out of the games and put on screen. And it's got me going like,
Here I come.
every time I notice a little detail in the background. I can also really appreciate the use of practical effects more than anything, and the CGI also looks great. You know, it's hard to believe that we are living in a time where fucking TV shows look better than most movies. You know, I gotta say, there are also a lot of really creative shots in this show. Sometimes you get these cinematic slow times of a bullet piercing a guy's face, just like a VATS kill in the games. And it makes me feel like a dumb little kid again. There are these fantastic landscape shots that show the sheer size and scale of the ruins of Los Angeles. Little road stop signs, airplane fins sticking out from under the ground, giant ships washed ashore. The environmental storytelling is just top notch here. I feel like most of the enjoyment to be had watching this show comes from the sets and environments themselves, and the secrets that they contain, which perfectly capture what the games are all about. Honestly, the most exciting part about the Fallout games is to walk and walk and walk and fight some super mutants and walk and run away from a death claw and walk and fight a Yaogwai and walk and fight some raiders and walk. Okay, you get my point. But it's nice to see the Fallout show capture the spirit of the Fallout games. Almost a little too much. The Fallout show is visually great, yes. I know this because Tyler knows this. But what are fancy visuals without a well thought out plot or interesting characters to back it up? The result is a Zack Snyder movie. The Fallout games are known for their interesting and memorable characters, and although my gripes with the show extend this, I will give credit where credit is due. I like the characters. I had a good time with the characters. Sometimes the characters say funny things and it makes me laugh.
You wanna make my cock explode now?
So, who are the characters? Well, there's Lucy, who is kind of a vessel for the new and inexperienced viewers who are not familiar with the Fallout series, who is discovering the post-apocalyptic American wasteland for the first time, as is the viewer. She is a lucky-go-lucky, okie-dokie character.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Who struggles to adapt to the cruelty of the wasteland, as she realizes that putting trust in strangers just doesn't work the way her vault training intended. She has a high luck, high charisma build and is going for that true pacifist speedrun, if you know what I mean. She ventures out from the vault to find her dad, after he is kidnapped by a gang of raiders for reasons that are important later. Then there's Maximus, who is actually my personal favourite character, who is kind of a vessel for the casual fans who have been around since Fallout 3, because he is a Brotherhood of Steel guy and that's all Bethesda knows, is Brotherhood of Steel this and Brotherhood of Steel that. Man, all my homies hate the Brotherhood of Steel. Maximus has these idealistic visions of the Brotherhood as being saviors and liberators, but they aren't. They are weak, pseudo-religious nerds with a bunch of cool armor. And he finds out the hard way as the knight that he is assigned to be a squire to is a pussy. Hey look, it's Michael Rappaport.
You know, this whole crap with this cancel culture and the...
So he lets him die because he's a little bitch, and he takes the power armor. And basically the rest of the season is Maximus being tested to see if he's worthy of the armor. But by the rest of the season, I mean the rest of the episode, as his arc pretty much ends there. He's got a high endurance build because he gets his ass kicked several times.
Kick the shit out of him.
But he's also rocking that low charisma build.
Intercourse?
Then there's the Ghoul,
Hello again.
who is probably the most fleshed out character with the most depth, mainly because he has basically an entire episode dedicated to his pre-war backstory, who's a vessel for the experienced Fallout fans who have been playing them way back when since 1997, because they are old, and the Ghoul is 250 years old. And what happens when a Fallout veteran finds a new fan of the franchise?
Hello again.
The Ghoul was once a hardened capitalist, Western TV cowboy turned poster boy mascot for Vault Tech, who once went by the name of Cooper Howard. He's basically Rick Dalton.
What's that?
Who was alive when the bombs dropped and becomes a ghoul, who's kind of a big meanie.
If you help me find him, he'll do whatever you want.
There's also the subplot of the Vault, responding to the attack and the kidnapping of Paul Atreides. But more interestingly, Norm, who actually became the character I became more invested with throughout the duration of the show, partly because the Vault subplot was set up better than the main plot, and partly because I found his development more intriguing than I thought. Norm starts off as an underachiever, who was more intelligent than most give him credit for. I mean, he was the only one to notice that these guys were not Vault dwellers, so he's rocking that high perception, high intelligence build, and gradually becomes more suspicious and picks up things that are not quite right in the Vault, and plans accordingly. If there is a season 2, I would watch it to watch Norm's probable development into a charismatic leader, or dictator. The show centers around these 3 characters, and it lets you pick which one to follow, as if you were choosing your own faction to follow in one of the games. It had me intrigued to see how their paths would eventually cross, and then when they did, how they would eventually cross again. The Dweller, the Knight, and the Ghoul. And they are all fighting for a head, but it's what actually is in the head which matters, which is a device that can power a thing, and therein lies the main flaw. I mean, ironically, the Ghoul says it best.
Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time.
Whereas this philosophy works well in the Fallout games, which are games that are driven by choice and free will, in order for a TV show to pull this off, I mean, keep in mind, I have no real experience in what it takes to create an IP, I'm just some nerd with too much free time, but you need to establish what it is that all these characters are fighting for first, instead of relying on a plot reveal at the end of the season.
Oh wow, this little chip thing powers a city that apparently has all of its electronics and light bulbs replaced after they were fried from a fucking nuclear blast 200 years before. Oh wow.
Otherwise, the result is a bunch of random bullshit that only sidetracks the story. And the result of that is that you forget about what's truly important at hand. I felt like all this random bullshit, which, don't get me wrong, is fun and all, but it serves no real purpose other than to fill up airtime to what is an urgent plot point that needs to be solved. But what's established is that this scientist flees from the Enclave, which, okay, why are they even there? I thought they blew up.
Enclave's real.
And he steals a super important device, and the Enclave doesn't send any soldiers after him. They just put up a bounty. I mean, they seem pretty established. They don't really look weak. If it was so important, why alert other factions to go and find the MacGuffin? The last thing you would want is for these stupid nerds in power armor to get their hands on the super secret important device thing, which can help a bunch of people only for them to hoard it for themselves. I mean, the Brotherhood are basically the bad guys in this story anyway, and the Enclave, which has got to be one of the most interesting factions in all of Fallout, is non-existent to the story. Why not make it so this guy was a Brotherhood scientist who was angry with the Brotherhood's philosophy of hoarding technology rather than utilizing it? So he steals it and runs, and then they put a bounty on his head. Then that sets up the final confrontation at the Griffith Observatory, and better ties into Maximus's character, who was an NCR citizen and was adopted by the Brotherhood after the nuking of Shady Sands. Boom. Then you've got an interesting dynamic between what the NCR stood for, the progressive side for a hopeful future, or the Brotherhood side, which has the more conservative worldview. But let's talk about New Vegas.
I got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle. Jingle, jangle.
I'm calling this section the New Vegas problem for a few reasons. 1. I like New Vegas. 2. New Vegas fans are annoying. 3. I understand how the first 2 contradict each other. 4. The Fallout show made a dum-dum. 5. I can explain why the dum-dum was ultimately a poor choice and how it affects the enjoyability of the games. In Fallout 1, there are multiple endings, but it was always clear that these other endings are alternate endings thrown in for fun, or for the purposes of exploring all the outcomes of any of the choices you can make. Fallout 2 spices things up a bit, adding some more diverse endings with alternate scenarios. Fallout 3 went 2 steps back, just one good ending and one bad ending.
We're over 200 endings. That is not an exaggeration.
And none of your choices mattered at all throughout the course of the game until the last moment. Fallout New Vegas is where it really shines though, as the choices you made throughout the game did in fact impact the endings, and the endings of different characters you encountered along the way. Fallout 4 is another story, as there isn't really an ending as such, as there is a faction you can choose. But basically is that each ending is never really confirmed. You pick your own ending for that story to tie off that experience. Then it moves on to a completely different area of America and follows a completely new story each time. But they have written themselves into a corner, which in my opinion breaks the illusion of the Fallout games, as they are now forced to canonize an ending of New Vegas. I think this is a pretty stupid choice that creates a lot of confusion about what even happened to New Vegas to be in this state in the first place. The ending animation of the season here shows Deathclaw skeletons and dead Securitrons. It still has that ambiguity as to what really happened, but I think even including this robs players of their own ideal ending in their mind. Ultimately, it seems that whatever ending you choose, issues didn't even end up mattering at all anyway. New Vegas never intended to have a canon ending in the first place. That breaks the illusion of what the game set up, that your choices matter and ultimately it is your own choice to see which faction better represents and makes the Mojave a better place. However, I will leave this criticism at this and wait until season 2, which is now confirmed, to see how they go ahead with this, because they might be able to keep the ambiguity as to what ending actually happened. Also, they added Fallout to Fortnite. I'm kind of conflicted about this actually. Not Fallout being in Fortnite, but about canonizing the ending of the game. Because when you think about it, most of the Fallout games make it pretty clear about the fact that there is in fact a set default ending. It's obvious that Fallout 3 has a good ending, but New Vegas is different as each ending feels balanced in terms of weight and quality. They could all be the canon endings. I will give credit where credit is due. It was a bold choice to include New Vegas into the plot of this show, but it kind of breaks the allure to Fallout as a whole in my opinion. I mean look, Bethesda can do whatever it wants with Fallout because they own it, and canonizing an ending to New Vegas does not change my enjoyment that much. It does dwindle that spark it once had, but nothing matters. The universe is so big. The nitpicks. I have a lot of them. The power armor looks kind of goofy at times. How come this guy managed to not get hit by a single bullet? The acting. It's fine. Walter Goggins gives a memorable performance. I think it's honestly kind of held back by this Marvel-like dialogue, which is a far cry from some of the game's best writing. I was expecting some interesting monologues and thought-provoking conversations, but there was really none of that.
Oh hell no, Maximus. Oh hell no, Maximus. Oh hell no.
Bro, why does that look so goofy? So much of the plot and its development relies on contrivance. Like, what was the plan here? What if Lucy had died? How would you have gotten the password from Detective Cooper here? In the opening scene, there are no visible missiles that hit the cities, they just explode randomly. I don't know if you've seen what one of these bombs look like in the Fallout games, but they are pretty big. Hell, even a warhead is pretty large by real-world standards. I think you should be able to see one even if it's just a black pixel on the screen. Or maybe they were planted underneath the cities by Vault-Tec. I don't know. Also, this little girl would be blinded, but that's fine. Also, isn't it slightly unethical to keep Lucy's mum in this state for so long? Like, shouldn't you put her out of her misery by now? Also, it's kind of funny how the Listen Al-Gaib is locked in a large bird cage. I think the look and feel is right, but I think the vibe of Fallout would play more along the lines of a Paul Verhoeven movie, like RoboCop or Starship Troopers. Both of these movies have violent, horrific gore, which you can't help but laugh at, but more importantly, they have concepts so goofy that they are played super seriously. The Fallout games match this vibe, but the Fallout show kind of doesn't. At least not as good as it could have. Hell, RoboCop is basically power armor when you really think about it. I don't really know how else to explain it, but to me, it just kind of felt like an imitation of the games. Like, it felt like I was watching a mediocre game rather than feeling like a TV show with the Fallout style and having its own vibe. Again, just a nitpick. Fallout is a post-apocalypse, not a post-apocalypse. Societies have already rebuilt and have formed their own factions to prove that war never changes and humanity will always fight even after the end of the world. It just seems as though that Bethesda is so hell-bent on keeping the Fallout world stuck in this post-apocalypse phase. Why? I don't know. But why are they so afraid to keep the Fallout world stagnant and not have it develop at all?
Everyone wants to save the world, they disagree on how.
TV shows, movies, and games that divide opinions are always interesting to me, and the Fallout show is no exception. In terms of video game adaptations, the Fallout show is up there in terms of quality, and I think part of that is due to the fact that it's less of an adaptation and more of a continuation, just a new story set in an already pre-established world. But I find it interesting how, I swear it used to be that games for the longest time would try to emulate movies. Now it seems like movies and now TV are trying to emulate games, or at least adapt them. I feel like within the next 10 years, they're going to do a video game adaptation TV show or movie for every single video game that has ever been released. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, even though I hate rating art by using a number scale, I'd give it a 6. But it's actually a 10 out of 10 because not once was there an annoying kid to piss me off like in the games.
You're not gonna shoot me,